But no,
So
I guess on in regards to final thoughts on the show as a whole, I mean so again, there's always two parts of the Game Awards, right? What do you feel good when you're watching? You feel good about some of the announcements you get, right? The
yeah,
awards are different when there is a game you feel is deserving, but the problem with this year is it feels like, again, like what we discussed when we discussed the nominations. So many of these games were in the same categories, and so
yeah,
few games got acknowledged as a result. The games
yep.
industry is huge. And again, it's like, do you know how many people are going to be playing a game like Lies of P or Armored Core 6 that feels so very unseen? Because
Yeah.
that might be their favorite. And at the same time, there are a lot of those wholesome kinds of games or all them farming sims. Those players feel very unseen, right? And that's where, they try and have their whole like, oh, we're about bringing the community together. We're about this, we're about that. And you have your games for impact that's supposed to be like, these are the games that matter. And it's like, you are leaving so much more on the table though, because you are just mishandling this. But here's
Yeah.
the thing. Again, to me, I mean, it's the Game Awards, dude. I mean, what you need is, again, it's like I told you now. I'm going to be
Well,
using
thanks for
the.
joining AV Hobbies.
Oh, you heading out?
I'm
Oh,
just saying,
yeah. He's saying
he was
thanks for
thanking us for
streaming.
streaming. It was paying it back.
Um, but no, the darn got my brain all scrambled. Um, but no, like the thing, I'm going to be using this comparison a lot now. The WWE versus AEW thing. The Game Awards need a legitimate like AEW level spin-off if the Game Awards are going to be WWE. It's a
Yeah, competition is good. They don't have competition. There is no other game awards. You're only you can only come to Jeff Keighley's game awards.
there
There are other publications that are like, oh yeah, this is our game of the year.
there's the
But it's
Golden Joystick, which is in the UK. It's earlier, and also it's most of the same. It's more of the same. And then because it's all publications there as well. And then you have the I forget if the Dice Awards are because the GDC has their own awards show. I forget if Dice is part of it or if Dice is separate. But like GDC, it's like actual game developers voting. So at least that usually allows for more niche games and stuff like that to get greater acknowledgement.
yeah,
Because again, like just like WWE is we're just going for as broad of an appeal as possible. And AEW is like, we're here for the core wrestling audience. Game Awards are definitely, we are looking for as broad appeal as possible, but you do need that alternative that is facing the consumer, but the core consumer that actually cares about the industry and like
yeah,
looks up information and will recognize certain things. But again, part of for that to work is you need to get out of LA. And Jeff Keighley is LA. He is an LA resident. He might have grown up in LA. He might be an LA native. So he's got that whole like connections with people. He's got that games press past. So everything about the way the awards are run is that same incestuous nature as Hollywood has. Where Hollywood is like everything is LA is the greatest city. Everything is these parties, these different events. It's
hmm
it's the kind of thing that you watch a movie like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and it's absolute cynicism about LA. You can tell it's like this is a movie made by an East Coaster that does not like LA. Um, and the Game Awards have that. And I think part of it too is, and I've realized this when it comes to actually, of all things, watching Skill Up. If you're going to be if you're going to be a games critic or games press, you actually need to keep a distance between yourself and the developer. And it's a shame because for me, like
yeah.
I've found conversations with some developers to be absolutely great. Um,
Dude, I mean, this past summer we had a good conversation with the developer of Among Us 3D VR, which was wild.
One of them, yeah, yeah, one of the developers of them. That after our panel, yeah. But
That was that was nuts.
the thing
Which, by the way,
is,
hey TMG, can you give us the video? I'm just saying.
yeah, I know. They're like, oh yeah, it should be, in about a month or two, and it's like, oh. But it doesn't surprise me. It was more than they expected.
Yeah.
But no, the other issue, like, sorry, I got to recollect my thoughts again.
You're good. Well, like because you were saying like the you have to distance yourself. Like if you're going to be in the press, you got to distance yourself from
Yes,
the
yes.
developer.
And that's where I really do think not enough press, not enough YouTube talents, especially, really, because there's always that love of the glitz and the glamour and the celebrity. So it's like, oh, I love you, and you're my favorite game designer. You're my favorite. This you need, however, if you're going to be critiquing these games, you need to have that separation. You cannot be Jeff Keighley viewing Hideo Kojima as his best friend. You need the separation so that you
Yeah.
don't have favoritism, so that you don't flaunt it. But
And
also,
you don't have that clearer conflict of interest.
now, right
'Cause,
now,
like,
Jeff Keighley isn't actually, a reviewer, but you're right, conflict
no.
of interest, even as an awards showrunner. And he tries to
Hmm.
pass that off because, like, I don't select the nominations, I don't vote for things. It's like, yeah, but you select the panelists, and that's still, and you select guests. These are things that
Like, it still reflects directly on him, regardless.
yes. So Hideo Kojima is an icon, but at some point, the younger gaming audience is going to be like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Who's this Japanese dude? Because what they're going to want to see are the designers, developers of Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail and all that. Or they're going to want to see the developers of Dead by Daylight. Or here's a guy that'll be blacklisted, will never be allowed on stage, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's. No, he was almost canceled because, surprise, surprise, dude's actually a Republican, and so he was supporting the wrong people. And so, yeah, he's basically blacklisted. Like, you're never going to see him on stage at an event like this, even though
No.
Five Nights at Freddy's is one of the biggest franchises of a generation, right?
Yeah, that is interesting that we've never seen representation of. Actually, no. Five Nights at Freddy's, the latest one, the first
movie?
person one. I think that was nominated at some point. I think it was.
No. But I mean, they won't have they won't have the creator come out on stage, kind of a thing. Like Vince Zampella, dude.
Probably not. Yeah.
Vince
Yeah,
Zampella,
to like talk and introduce and all that.
yeah, Vince Zampella goes back, right? Vince Zampella created Medal of Honor, helped co-create Medal of Honor, left to co-create Call of Duty, left after Modern Warfare 2 or 3 to then co-found Respawn and Titanfall. Like, that dude has a track record, but you're never going to see, because that's the thing. It's like, look, you're never going to see the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's. And was that movie even nominated for Best Adaptation?
No, actually, no, it wasn't.
How many Gen Zers or young millennials do you think that grew up with Five Nights at Freddy's and saw the movie? Like, I know my niece was really looking forward to it. I know a whole bunch of people were looking forward to it. And I mean,
some people I didn't expect to say it was good say it was good.
now, I don't know myself, and I really do have no interest in the IP, but it's like you have a complete a lack of representation of the younger audience. And part of this comes down to millennials thinking still they're the hip generation. Millennials are the new boomer, right? So there's kind of an irony in you call me, because it's like you call me, you gave me the whole okay boomer thing, but it's like, yeah, you're right and you're wrong.
It was a joke, damn it.
I know. But it's like, to an extent, our generation is the new boomer where we think we're cool and hip, but our efforts are like, you remember the old Cinnamon Toast Crunch commercials where it's like,
Oh, yeah.
can you see why can this teacher see why blah blah? And it's like this super nerdy, uptight old lady teacher Like it's
Yep.
trying to be like, oh, grown-ups aren't cool. It's like, as I don't know about other kids, but as a kid, I
Well,
was
I
like, grown-ups made this commercial. Like,
well, yeah, because the thing about this is that at this point the millennials are the ones right now with the money, right? So you appeal to the millennials, that's the parents' money.
it's sort of a mixture.
Um, I mean, it is. I mean, we don't have all the money, but after the boomers are gone, yeah, we're the ones, the last ones left. So there was an even though like the topic is unrelated, there was a video I saw recently of of how McDonald's removed kids from their marketing, right? And they're making more sales than ever. Really makes you think.
That's weird.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what
I
part of it
forgot.
is? You know what part of it is though? Because kids aren't watching TV. Kids are. Oh my goodness, though. You know what
I
the
mean, that's the thing. Kids aren't watching TV, but when they're on
you
YouTube, they still get ads, and McDonald's would still capitalize
you
if they
know what?
wanted to.
But you know what McDonald's social media ad Gen Z will see? The Japanese one of the family. The little Japanese anime one of the family.
Yeah, yeah, they did, didn't they?
Gen Z saw that
They
ad.
got real mad about that.
Um.
Well, not
mm,
Gen Z specifically, but Twitter freaks did.
Twitter freaks got
Um,
real mad about it, and
they're like
of
the
course,
nuclear family.
it
How
became
dare you?
exactly. It became another stupid culture war thing. Um, because of course it did. But no, that's the thing
I
though,
love it.
is you have the Gen Z though, and especially because Gen Z is not unlike some of the more depressing aspects of Japanese society where it's like, oh look, a loving family. I wish I could have that. Like it's depressing, but that's that's what millennials don't realize, that you need to start making things for these younger audiences. Video games are better at it than Hollywood is, at the very least.
Yep,
But it's like, again, the
they
Game
are.
Awards, Jeff Keighley is such a Gen Xer. He doesn't look at that stuff. And a lot of the journalists and games press, they're not looking at it either. Now, I've come to terms with the fact that through my interactions with my niece, like the games that I play are not are not the games Gen Z wants to play. At some point, the games that I like, they'll stop making the games that I like, and I'm just going to have a whole lot of old games I can play. Like that's my.
I'm frankly cool with that. I have a massive collection,
I just put
and I ain't
together.
gonna be
Yeah,
bored anytime
I
soon.
just put together my backlog. It's huge, so I'm fine
I
with
don't
that
want
in
to
a
do
lot of
that.
ways too. Um,
I don't want to put together my backlog. I've been avoiding
Understandable.
that for years.
Understandable. Well, it's also incomplete because my PS4 is not hooked up. I don't know all the digital and physical titles I haven't beaten that I bought for my PS4. So I only know some of them.
Can I tell you that's over 400 games for PS4 for me? Like, it's a
You,
problem. It's a
I
problem.
mean, I have
I didn't
no.
pay for most of them, or I didn't pay additionally for most of them. Just putting that out there for anyone that's like, bro, that's a lot. And it's like, well, yeah, it is a lot.
Well,
I did put in a lot of money.
my spreadsheet has two columns for platform in case of a backup platform, because there are some games on there, never played them, still bought them twice or three times even. Um, but no,
Have I told you how many times I bought Sonic 1?
but the real that's the real thing of it though. Like for me, events like this just I. You know, going back to like some of what was being said earlier, like the whole gatekeeping thing, and I know a lot of times it was joking, and I honestly I was not meaning to be personal with AV Hobbies or Jen,
Oh, dude,
but
I don't think it was taken that way.
the thing is, it's like my part of it is my brother helped get me into certain things, so when he and his college friends introduced me to tabletop role playing games, they all played different games. D&D might be a gateway, but it was one of many systems that they played and looked at. And most of them started to move on from D&D because they got tired of like all we're doing is like fighting and dungeon crawling and all this other stuff. So, yeah, they found new systems, but that's where again, 4th edition comes in, tries to be World of Warcraft in tabletop form. It doesn't do very well. 5th edition
Yeah.
is the apology edition, but moves by Wizards of the Coast, some of the people that they hire, and then again, the explosion of Critical Role changes the audience and the people playing. Because a lot of, and that's the thing, you could talk to old tabletop game store owners that will be like, dude, we can't get anyone to play games in here anymore because all these new customers just want to play Critical Role. They literally want to play Critical Role. And they can't stand the idea of a character dying. They can't stand an idea of this or that. And you have now a new generation of people that they don't play tabletop games. They play D&D, which is why, honestly, again, it is that WWE versus AEW, because the people that watch AEW usually also watch other circuits. The
Yeah, they do.
casual WWE fan that's very broad and very numerous only watches WWE. But that's the thing. Like maybe that's the mentality. Maybe that's where. But can the hobby survive in stores that way? That's the question. Like my brother goes to a store where, fortunately, though there's a lot of Warhammer 40K played, he has people he can play a game called Bolt Action with, which is a different miniatures game that's more World War II history and everything.
Hmm. Okay, I think I've heard of it actually.
But that's the thing. It's like, to me, growing up, tabletop gaming was one thing, and then it transformed. And it goes into like our big conversation on things like Geek Chic, right? All these things that transformed all this stuff. And being a kid, I was always a contrarian. I had a Super Nintendo. Most of the kids in my town had a Genesis. I played
Oh,
Final Fantasy.
that's weird. That is a weird thing.
It actually, you're not wrong, but actually, it fits the image of that town, honestly. I was playing, Final Fantasy. Squaresoft was my favorite company. Final Fantasy, Secret of Mana, Chrono Trigger. I love these games. I loved Earthbound. I loved Breath of Fire. I love Legend of Zelda and Super Metroid and Mega Man X and Star Fox. And the other kids, all they ever played was Mortal Kombat and Madden, and maybe Sonic. So I was always a contrarian there. I was watching anime and still watching animated shows when other kids my age were starting to watch Beverly Hills 90210, right? I was listening to heavy metal when they were listening to pop, and by high school, when heavy metal was starting to become mainstream, with different bands like
Guitar
Slipknot,
Hero.
Static X, and no, before the Guitar Hero, like just
Okay.
Korn, Slipknot, Static X, like some of these, just this era where metal was more common. I started like listening to European power metal, which was completely unknown in America at the time. So I've always had that contrarian taste, and I'm getting better at not being frustrated about that. But then sometimes like this Alan Wake stuff comes about. But that's basically part of my whole thing with D&D. Like, where is it with people here? And this is also just a millennial generation in general. Star Wars was given broad appeal, and it always had broad appeal, but it was given even more broad appeal. And to me, it lost something of itself. So I don't follow the brand name, and I kind of resent people that do just because brand name. Now, I shouldn't resent people that like something, and I shouldn't feel negatively about things like Alan Wake being given all this acknowledgement when, to me, like, and again, dude, I remember liking it when it was released in 2010. I started this year because I was ready to buy Alan Wake 2. Like January through May of this year, I was like, I will be buying Alan Wake 2 this holiday season. I am looking forward to it. I want to catch up on the story and play Alan Wake again. And that playthrough, I was like, this game is such a mess. I need to make a video about it. Trying to make a video about it. Trying to make a video about it. I hate this game. I hate this game. I hate this video. I hate everything about it. I hate, and part of it was going back and doing the research and seeing some of the stuff people like Stinking. Of course, it was what's his face from Stinking Kotaku that was like, this game is like, it redefines interactive storytelling in video games. And it's like, no, it doesn't. Holy crap. Like I had complaints about like the coffee cans. I had complaints about too much combat, but like going back today, it's like, holy crap, this game is not that good. And it was like, it was looking back because I thought like Control was a fluke. Like, okay, Alan Wake was good, but Control, it's good, but and then, after playing Alan Wake, it's like, you know what? F Remedy. Screw these guys. But that's again, it's like there's the contrarian in me and having to try and rectify that because I end up feeling like the guy pointing out that the Emperor has no clothes and no one's listening. But
my thing is like I get why, and maybe I don't know. Maybe this is just a thing that I don't know. Maybe this is just a whole devil's advocate thing or something like that. I can get why people can like certain things. Like I can get it, but it's also like because not this past October, but October of last year, I played through Silent Hill 2, and that game still holds up really well, even with the botched HD port that I was playing, still held up really, really well. And I know Alan Wake tries to capture some of that, and it's like nobody does it like the PS2 games did. And when I saw Alan Wake, the first one, being played back in like, I don't know, 2012, 2013, and then I saw it. Like I saw the gameplay, the action portions. And in my head I was like, this is what people were excited about? This is dog shit. What is this?
The thing is, dude, I don't
What
even
is
like the
this?
story and the writing because I'm sitting there like starting to look up wikis to try and make sure I'm making sense of everything. And also because I'm like, wait, what is going on here? Why is this character in this story? Why is this and that and the other thing? And looking up the wikis, it's like, oh, you had to read the book, but the book's not necessarily canon. What? Like, what?
And see,
and there's also, well, it's also because it's like I started asking more and more questions because it's there aren't any consistent established rules for how the darkness works either. Quick AV Hobby says, to be honest, I can't watch Critical Role, but they did make it possible for a ton of people to enjoy it again, especially if I have to work all day. There's a podcast I can stand to listen to. Also, I agree with all the statements about Alan Wake and Silent Hill and all of this. I haven't said personally anything about Silent Hill, but
I just did.
I wanted to get, yeah, you did. I did want to give another chance for Silent Hill 2, though. I started it at one point, but I want to give it another go when I can hook the system up to play it.
Well, it is on the Xbox store and it's playable on Series X. So,
see, I do have an original Xbox disc. Which version's on the store?
Oh, it's the HD version. So I'm not sure if the original version.
It'll work on my
like
Xbox
the
360.
original Xbox.
I still have an Xbox 360 that's functional, and I would need to hook it up though. And that's part of the problem. So it'll work there.
You might be able to. You might want to look that up.
No, because that's how I played it before. I never had it on the original Xbox, but I did start playing it on my 360. So I know it'll work.
You might be able to play it on the Series X.
Oh.
If it's compatible. You might.
And
don't quote me on that. You're going to have to look it up.
And yeah, the story and writing is absolutely a joke regarding Alan Wake. And yeah, but that's the thing. It's also, and again, I've told you about this. It's also one of those things where I hear people trash my stuff all the time, and I'm like, you know what? How could deal with it when I trash your stuff? Because I have to hear it all the time. But that's part of being a contrarian, right? And also, I can't shut my brain off. People tell me, "Oh, you'll enjoy it if you just shut your brain off and watch it."
So I find that argument to be garbage. When people say, "Oh, just turn your brain off," I'm like, that's not. I don't think that's a compliment.
No, and also it's like again, so the inability to shut my brain off, what it does is it does reduce the quantity of what I can enjoy to an extent, but it also increases the quality of what I enjoy and my enjoyment of it. But at the
Sure.
same time, there are some things that are just enough of a mess that they are so fascinating to think about.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah, they're like. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that one of my favorite game series of all time is good, and that's No More Heroes. I think No More Heroes is an absolute dumpster fire, but like I love it because of that. There's a lot of things about it that are deliberately on purpose bad, but that doesn't make it okay, you know?
the
It
fu-
doesn't make it okay.
the funny thing is, I'd still say it does enough well, but it's again, it's the small things. It's where my brain's going to go into overdrive, where it's like, okay, the combat in this game is not very deep, but why do I enjoy it so much? And I can immediately
Right.
answer, it's snappy, it's quick, right? Like you will have to fight a lot
Well,
of
in the
enemies,
first
but
game at least.
in the first game, yes. The third game makes a lot of improvements.
It does.
The third game is a like surpasses what No More Heroes 1 and 2 were. Um, so the third game is good and is a different analysis altogether. But No More
Yeah.
Heroes 1, it's like, yeah, a lot of these enemies go down pretty decently quick. Um, the levels aren't too long, and the boss fights have a system. No More Heroes 2 is where it starts to fall apart, but that's because Suda51 didn't actually direct it. Um,
Oh, he didn't. I didn't
no,
know
it's
that.
like Hideki Kamiya didn't direct Bayonetta 2 or 3, but he oversaw them. Um,
Okay. Okay. That explains a lot, but it still kept a lot of the isms. I think that's a conversation for a whole
it
different
is,
day
and
though.
we
Cuz
need
I
to
cuz I
wrap up.
could do a whole podcast. I could do a series of them on No More Heroes because there's a lot to break down. That series is insane and I love it.
Yeah,
Um
but
but yeah, I
we we'll wrap this up.
yeah,
Again,
the closing thoughts.
final thoughts. When it comes to the trailers, this might have been one of the best years in a while because they had a lot of bigger representation, but smaller representation in regards to quality of games too, and just more games that were interesting to me. Even some games that um games whose names I'm going to have to look back up, like the one where the one that was inspired by the guy's dead dad. As weird as that is to say,
Yeah.
it's like some of it I was like, I don't know, but then as soon as it got to the gameplay, I'm like, okay. So there's plenty of stuff that I'm interested in. Whether I'll be able to get to it or not is another thing. But there's definitely
Right.
plenty to be interested in, and having a date for Space Marine 2, oh yeah, and I have plenty of
That's
time.
good.
I have plenty of time to replay the first one and catch up. And hope I don't have another Alan Wake experience. But oh god, the ability to fight Tyranid looks so good. But yeah, I mean, overall was decent. And again, like for what the nominations were, most of the winners were fine. They were fine. I
Yeah.
mean, they were about what I expected. Armored Core 6 got to walk home with an award.
Which is dope.
Part of me was
Down with
hoping,
that.
part of me was honestly hoping Remnant 2 would get it. Remnant 2 didn't belong in the same category as Armored Core 6 though. But again,
Which category was that again?
best action game.
But there's
Rem- if
no,
anything,
you know what?
Remnant 2 belonged in the best multiplayer, but it still would have lost because I forget what won. Oh, Baldur's Gate 3 won best multiplayer. So it's
Yeah.
it is what it is, but you know what? One day I'm sure Gunfire Games will get their acknowledgement. And if not,
It
they've
wasn't
got loyal fans. So there you go.
they do.
They win in that regard.
And it wasn't a clean sweep from Baldur's Gate, which
No.
is actually what I expected.
Alan
I
Wake
expected
2
a clean sweep.
Yeah, Alan Wake 2 won enough of the big awards that I was worried they might be the winner.
Yeah. So
So
my final thought is I'm happy for Baldur's Gate. I haven't played it, but like I have friends that absolutely adore the game and they play it a lot together.
like AV hobby.
So yeah, AV hobbies. My friend Finch, Jen wants to play it. Um, And I think the big thing is that it scratches that itch that Mass Effect Andromeda could not scratch. It couldn't even touch.
What what could?
you
Um
know, and like, and I think that that's cool. I like how they cared enough about making a game that was fun, that like it kind of reminds me of the old Saints Row approach where it's like, screw it, let's just throw this crap in because it's fun, and we want to give people something to chew on that might not be relevant to the overall story, but it's here and you can play around with it. I like that. I like that there's so much replayability. It's just a big game, so if I'm ever to touch it, it's gonna like it's a time sink, and that's something that's starting to get to me now. Um, so and as much as I appreciate Baldur's Gate 3, my pick was Tears of the Kingdom. And just seeing Tears of the Kingdom get one award over Baldur's Gate 3 was awesome. But Baldur's Gate 3 beat Zelda, which is huge.
I just realized
Like,
I don't think Resident Evil 4 won anything.
no, it didn't. And I kind of expected that because
It is a remake,
like,
but again, like I still
yeah,
stand by the point that they could have screwed that up so easily.
they could have. And it's just crazy because like, and I guess we can talk about this in our like year in review sometime later where we talk about what we played this year, if you're down to do that. Like I feel like I was taken back to a different time, but like the games that I was playing now looked the way I imagined that they looked when I was playing them. Like I was playing Resident Evil 4 and Metroid Prime like 15, 20 years ago,
And
and
Dead
like they
Space. Well,
just
you weren't playing Dead Space at that time, but I was. I played all three
no.
of those, and it was like, man, what a blast from. It's like these Dead Space really is like, man. I still remember some of the first trailers being like, man, they didn't really change much, did they? And then you watch old gameplay, and it's like,
And you're
oh,
like, oh wow.
oh wow, yeah, exactly.
Resident
So
like it was wild. This has been a really, really interesting year for games. I still don't think it touches like 2018 and 2019. I think 2019 was probably like the most banger year that we've had in games for a while.
I mean, for
But this was
me,
an interesting one.
I am biased towards I think 2021 with Metroid Dread and Resident Evil Village. Like again,
Ugh, those
both
were good.
those are some of my favorite games of the past
And
several
Monster Hunter
years. So,
Rise. Monster Hunter Rise came out
yeah.
then too, which was
So
that was
there's
a good year.
that was a good year. But yeah, I mean, 2024 should be interesting. I'm going to be trying to spend less, but again, we could talk about some of this in trying to get a funnel A Steve going. Maybe towards Christmas break we can get a recording going. Um,
Yeah, maybe.
but all right, that's a
Another Game
wrap.
Awards come and gone, baby.
Yep,
We did
and
it. We